That was originally sort of, the inspiration came about a number of years ago when I saw Sam Malouf exhibit back in DC, and just the way he sculpted his chairs and everything was, I thought was very cool, and not wanting to do yet another Malouf chair, that was just sort of the jumping off point for me, and I wanted something that was ergonomic like his, but that was a little more off the beaten path. So I came up with this, and everybody asked me where the inspiration for it was, and I don't actually really know how it got there, but this is what I ended up with. A lot of people, when I first made it, said it looked like either a giraffe or a gazelle, so it was called the Serengeti chair, and since I've had a bunch of people tell me it looks sort of like a Japanese or a Chinese guitar thing, I don't know what they're called, but either way, it's a lot more comfortable than it looks. It's always sort of intimidating to people because it looks sort of uncomfortable, I guess, but they're always very happy when they sit in it. There's a couple of these down at the Rittenhouse at the exhibit that's down there with a table that went with it. The other piece here is a console table that I designed a few years ago. And it didn't really have too much of an inspiration other than it was originally designed for a show that I did with a group that I used to show with in San Francisco. And I wanted something that was sort of graphic in shape, but still had a lot of texture to it. And so I've used that squiggle sort of shape in a number of pieces, and so I wanted to try to take that into a table and see what I could do with it. And that's where it came out. It is sort of nautical looking because it has the sort of wave in the upright and the kind of shaped base. The table is made out of wangi, the base, with bird's eye maple top and some ebony inlays in it. The chair is curly maple with cocobolo accents on it, and then that's leather on the seat.
And how did you craft the back of that chair? It looks carved.
It's actually just bandsawn and then hand shaped from there. The actual shape of the back pieces came about that I had a bunch of people over for a Super Bowl party one year and put some graph paper up on the wall and traced the curvature of everybody's backs and then sort of took an average of all that. And that's how I came up with the shape to it.
Are there other pieces around that we can see from here that we can...
Sure. Well, the coffee table, I did that several years ago. That was another example of kind of a site-specific piece. We wanted it to be in here, and the shape was sort of dictated by the flow of the room, being the couch there and the traffic flow around it. And I wanted something that was light because it's a very light room, so we went with the glass top and sort of an open base, and that was just an experiment in doing those sorts of curves and shapes. The kitchen was, when we moved into this house, we realized the kitchen needed an upgrade quite badly, and so we decided that if I was going to be doing open studios and trying to use this as a portfolio piece, I would, kind of go all out for the kitchen. One of the main things in the kitchen is this island. It's shaped to allow maximum movability around the kitchen and maximum access to all of the cabinets. It uses different materials. The main material in it is straight grain Doug fir, and I've tried to incorporate a bunch of curves just to make it more interesting. The back here is a curved fan-shaped piece with mahogany legs. The fronts are shop sliced matched veneers, slip matched veneers as you go down, all from a single piece. The top is hard maple, and then we've got this serving bar and glass that sort of accents the whole thing. The shape of the island is meant to allow accessibility to the rest of the kitchen. The big part in the kitchen itself was when we realized that if we push the refrigerator back into the garage a couple of feet, we would have room for the island in the first place. So we did that and kind of refigured the whole thing, and that way we were able to fit everything in. The shape of the island here is meant to match this so that nobody hits any sharp corners on the way out. The drawers here are shaped to match that curve. They're all hand dovetailed on slides on their own slides, and we've got hard silverware and linens and all sorts of storage there above the pot rack. Storage was a key issue in this kitchen, so we sort of stuffed things wherever we could. Then we've got the cutting board here. This was one of those things that started out as a really good idea and ended up as being a nightmare. I thought rather than doing a regular butcher block top, why don't I make it out of hexagons instead of squares? So it took me forever to mill all these hexagons, and then probably 17 glue-ups to get them all together. And it's not something I really relish doing again, but if someone really wanted it, I probably could. It was just sort of a nightmare to do. We've also got doors on either side of the octagon here for storage on either side, plus a garbage pull-out in the back. So we've really tried to maximize the use of the whole thing. The rest of the kitchen, as I said, is all Douglas fir with redwood burl inlays, and then, just to kind of brighten things up, the frosted glass in the cabinetry.
So tell us what you're going to demonstrate today then, Mickey.
Well, today I'm going to talk about a way to make matched curve parts. I've used this several times in different pieces, and as you can see, these pieces have been cut to roughly the same shape, the same curve, but they don't really fit. And this is a really quick way to make perfectly matching parts. Generally, what you would normally do in a situation like this is make a template for one side of the piece, and then with a series of router bits, make a template for the matching piece with equal offsets on the router bits. And rather than going through several stages of temporary intermediate templates, this is a way to take one side of the piece and make a template directly off of that for the other side. So first we put that guy where it's supposed to be. Part of the key to this is a flexible piece of 1/8" plywood here. This is called bending plywood, and the way they lay these up is that it's 3 layers. 2 of the layers go the same direction, and then there's a thin layer in between, so that it's very flexible in one direction. So we've got the piece here that we want to match. We have this template, which has been, again, just roughly cut to it. We use that to sort of get close and pin the plywood template up against the workpiece. And then the rest of it is really super high-tech. It involves little blocks of wood and hot glue. And the way we do that is, the key is to get, this is the face that we're going to use as our template, and to get that really tightly up against the workpiece. So we give it a little bit of wood or glue here and press it in, getting a really tight fit between the face of the template and the workpiece. Wait that for a second. And then we just kind of walk down the piece. And what this does is, these little blocks here not only force the face of the template to be against the piece that we're matching, but it also gives it some substance behind it, so you can run a pattern making router bit along it when we shape the mating piece.
How long does that glue take to set?
Oh, a second or two. That's what's nice about hot glue. It's not very permanent, but it's really quick. And it's permanent enough when you get all of these little blocks on here that it'll hold it through several series of use. It'll be pretty substantial by the time we're done with it. And so, I'm pushing both down and against the face, because you want to make sure that your template is hugging the workpiece as tightly as possible.
And you're leaving about, what, 1/4 of an inch between the...
Oh, yeah. That's sort of dependent on how tight the radius of the curve is you're trying to match. If it's a real tight bend, you're going to want to put them closer together just to make sure that the template that you're making is really true. But then sometimes you can space them out a little bit more. For the kind of stuff I do, usually one of these curves, the initial curve, is sort of free-handed, where I'll either freehand draw it or just go to the bandsaw and freehand cut it to a shape that I like. And so this way I can make whatever shape I need and then just produce a matching template to whatever shape I come up with. And it can be done sort of on the fly without a whole lot of worry or thought ahead of time. And so now what we can do is take this template. This is the matching piece of wood, and now I can come back and fix this template onto it, run it through the router table, and we'll get a perfect match. So a little bit of double stick tape here. And I can line the template up with my original line. And press it down, and then it's over to the router table. So now we've got the piece with the template on it, and all we have to do is run it across this pattern following bit, and that will clean up the work piece, and then we can match it to the first piece. Separate those, and then what we end up with are two pieces that are perfectly matched with no gaps.
Great. Thank you, Mickey. Good demonstration.